Europe is home to centuries of history, breathtaking architecture, and some of the most haunted places on Earth. From ghostly apparitions to chilling whispers in the night, these locations have terrified visitors for generations. Are you brave enough to explore the supernatural? Join us as we count down the 5 most haunted places in Europe. Leap Castle, Ireland. Perched in the Irish countryside, Leap Castle was built in the 13th century by the ruthless O'Carroll clan, warriors known for their cruelty. But among all their crimes, one of the most infamous tales is that of the Bloody Chapel. Legend has it that in the late 1500s, the O'Carrolls, hungry for power, turned against one another. Thaddeus O'Carroll, a priest, was conducting mass in the chapel when his own brother, driven by greed and rage, stormed in and plunged a sword into his chest. The priest collapsed, dying upon the altar, his blood seeping into the stone, staining the chapel forever. Even today, the Bloody Chapel is the epicenter of terror. Visitors report seeing a shadowy figure drifting along the walls, his face frozen in silent agony. But that's only the beginning. As if murder and betrayal weren't enough, the O'Carrolls had another secret buried within the castle. The oubliette. Hidden beneath a trapdoor, this sinister pit was not meant for prisoners. It was meant for victims, those unfortunate enough to fall and would land upon a bed of wooden spikes, left to die slowly in the dark. When the oubliette was rediscovered centuries later, workers unearthed hundreds of skeletal remains. So much death. Even now, those who enter the room report an overwhelming sense of despair. Some claim they hear faint whispers begging for mercy. Others, they say they feel something pulling them toward the darkness, as if the pit still hungers for souls. If restless spirits weren't enough, Leap Castle harbors something far worse, a thing known only as the elemental. This entity is different. It doesn't appear as a ghostly figure or a fleeting shadow. Those who've seen it describe a grotesque, humanoid creature, no larger than a child but with rotting flesh and glowing red eyes that bore into your soul. First recorded in the early 20th century, the elemental was seen by Mildred Darby, a resident of Leap Castle. She described being overwhelmed by an unbearable stench of death before locking eyes with the creature. It exuded pure malevolence, a hatred so deep that she fled in terror. Since then, countless others have encountered it, always accompanied by that putrid smell. Paranormal experts believe the elemental is a remnant of an ancient curse, a dark force bound to the castle. Others believe it is something far worse, something never human to begin with. Would you dare face it? And then there's the Gray Lady, a sorrowful spirit. She is said to be the ghost of a woman imprisoned within Leap Castle long ago. Some say she was a servant. Others claim she was a prisoner, but all the legends agree on one thing. Her screams still echo through the halls. And then there's the Red Mist, a terrifying specter that appears as a shifting cloud of blood-red vapor. It creeps through the castle, slithering along the walls. Witnesses claim that if you see it, an overwhelming sense of dread, an impending doom will consume you. Some even claim it is the spirit of those massacred in the oubliette, manifesting as one collective horror. So, would you visit Leap Castle? Would you stand in the Bloody Chapel and listen for whispers? Would you step near the oubliette and feel the pull of the past? But be warned, many who visit Leap Castle report nightmares for weeks afterward. Some even claim to bring something home with them. A shadow, a whisper in the night, a creeping feeling that something unseen is watching, waiting. And sometimes it follows you forever. Hoia Baciu Forest, Romania. Hoia Baciu isn't just another creepy forest. This place has a history drenched in fear. It was named after a shepherd who vanished into the woods with his flock of 200 sheep, never to be seen again. No bones, no remains, just gone. But that's only the beginning. For decades, villagers have whispered about strange lights flickering between the trees, ghostly figures appearing and vanishing, and an unnatural silence that chokes the air. Some believe the forest is cursed. Others say it's a gateway to another dimension. But one thing's for sure, once you step inside, you're never alone. Scientists and paranormal investigators have spent years trying to unravel the mysteries of Hoya Baciu. Their findings? Disturbing. Visitors report overwhelming nausea, dizziness, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. Electronics malfunction without explanation. Shadows move where there should be none. And then there are the voices, whispering your name when no one is there. Perhaps the most chilling part of the forest is the Poana Rotunda, the circle of death, a perfect clearing where nothing grows. No birds sing, no animals wander in. It's as if the earth itself refuses to exist here. People who step into the circle describe an unbearable pressure, as if something unseen is watching, waiting. Some say they lose time, wandering out hours later with no memory of what happened. Others claim they've been touched by invisible hands, whispering their darkest fears into their ears. And then there are those who enter, only to disappear completely. The 1960s brought one of Hoya Baciu's most infamous encounters. Biologist Alexandru Sift captured photographs of disc-shaped objects hovering over the trees. Shortly after, people began reporting missing time, minutes, sometimes hours, erased from their memory. Could this be a hot spot for extraterrestrial activity? Some researchers believe Hoya Baciu is a vortex, a tear between our world and something else. Something older, something hungry. If you still think this is all just myth and superstition, listen closely. The people who've walked these woods have their own stories. And they aren't just stories. A woman missing for 5 years reappeared in the exact same spot where she vanished, unchanged, wearing the same clothes, with no memory of where she had been. To her, only a few minutes had passed. So, what is Hoya Baciu Forest? A haunted woodland? A cursed land? A doorway to something beyond our understanding? The truth remains buried beneath centuries of fear, hidden in the darkness between the twisted trees. But if you're ever in Romania and you hear something calling your name from the trees, don't answer, because you might not be alone, and you might not make it back. Borgvattnet Vicarage, Sweden. Built in 1876, Borgvattnet Vicarage was once a place of peace, a home for priests serving the local parish. But soon, inexplicable events turned it into something else entirely. The first recorded case of supernatural activity dates back to the 1920s, when a priest reported hearing unseen footsteps echoing through the halls at night. But that was only the beginning. By the 1930s, things had escalated. The then residing priest saw an old woman dressed in gray sitting in a rocking chair. When he approached, she vanished before his eyes. Then in the 1940s, Father Eric Lindgren moved into the vicarage, determined to dismiss the growing rumors. But even he could not escape the horrors within these walls. One night, as he sat writing in his study, he was violently yanked from his chair by an unseen force. Scratches appeared on his body, marks from something not of this world. What lurks inside Borgvattnet Vicarage? Witnesses describe chilling encounters with apparitions. The most infamous is the Weeping Woman, a spectral figure seen cradling an infant, sobbing in agony. Some say she is the ghost of a grieving mother, forced to give up her child. Others believe she is something far worse. Then there's the 3 gray figures. Guests have awoken in the dead of night to find 3 shadowy women standing at the foot of their bed, watching, waiting. And let's not forget the cursed rocking chair. Many have seen it move on its own, swaying back and forth, as if occupied by something unseen. A former resident claimed that anyone who dared sit in it would feel an overwhelming sense of dread and sometimes never wake up. The vicarage is no longer a place of worship. Today, it stands as a guest house for those brave enough to stay overnight. Visitors report waking up paralyzed, feeling icy hands gripping their throats. Others have fled in the middle of the night, driven mad by the relentless whispers echoing through the walls. What fuels the haunting of Borgvattnet Vicarage? Some say it is the restless spirits of former residents, priests burdened by sins they could never confess. Others believe it is something darker, an ancient force tied to the land itself. Legends speak of a curse cast upon the vicarage long before it was built, a sacrifice, a betrayal, a blood debt never repaid. But be warned, if you do enter, you may not leave the same, whether you believe in ghosts or not.
Ancient ram in Gloucestershire, England. Tucked away in the quiet village of Watton-under-Edge, England, stands a building so drenched in legend and blood-curdling lore that even the bravest dare not linger after dark. This is the Ancient Ram Inn, a place where history, mystery, and horror intertwine. The Ancient Ram Inn was built in 1145, initially serving as housing for masons and workers constructing St. Mary's Church nearby. But this building was never destined to be ordinary. Legend has it that the inn was constructed on a site of pagan rituals, complete with ley lines, powerful spiritual paths said to connect ancient monuments like Stonehenge. And beneath its foundation, the remains of a 5,000-year-old pagan burial ground. Throughout its nearly 900-year history, the Ancient Ram Inn has been a witness to violence, tragedy, and inexplicable occurrences. Ownership passed through many hands, each seeming to add another layer to its cursed reputation. But perhaps none are more infamous than John Humphreys, the late owner who spent decades preserving the inn and battling the spirits within. John Humphreys often spoke of his chilling experiences within these walls. He claimed to have discovered evidence of witchcraft, including a sacrificial dagger. But it was what he unearthed in the cellar that truly haunts the imagination. Skeletal remains of children, along with evidence suggesting ritual sacrifice, the Ancient Ram Inn is home to a host of spectral inhabitants. One of the most infamous is the spirit of a witch who was allegedly burned at the stake in the 1500s. She is said to haunt the witch's room, filled with an overwhelming sense of dread that drives visitors to flee. Then there's the dark monk. Witnesses describe seeing a shadowy figure stalking the halls, its oppressive presence enough to bring grown men to tears. And in the bishop's room, accounts of ghostly apparitions, sudden poltergeist activity, and even the sensation of being strangled in your sleep. But perhaps the most terrifying accounts come from those who leave the inn, only to find that something has followed them home. The Ancient Ram Inn is more than just a haunted house. It's a gateway, a thin veil between our world and something far darker. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain. Stepping into this place leaves a mark. Château de Brissac, nestled in the heart of the Loire Valley, France, lies a fortress that has seen centuries of bloodshed, betrayal, and tragedy. This is Château de Brissac, a majestic castle, once the home to nobility, now shrouded in a dark and disturbing history. But behind its beautiful stone walls and ornate windows, a sinister force lurks, one that has haunted this place for generations. It was here, in these very halls, that a horrific crime occurred in 1496. The Duke of Brissac, a man named Charles de Brissac, came home to a scene that would forever stain the chateau's legacy. His wife, Isabel, was caught in the act of adultery with one of the Duke's trusted servants. Consumed by rage and betrayal, Charles murdered both of them in cold blood, in a frenzy that echoed through the walls. Isabel's spirit, broken and furious, was said to have never left Château de Brissac. Her restless soul wanders the halls, her presence felt most strongly in the night. They say her ghost, dressed in a flowing green gown, haunts the chateau to this day, searching for her killer, forever cursed to roam the corridors. The Green Lady, as she's come to be known, is said to appear in the chateau's grand rooms and cold hallways, her glowing figure a symbol of vengeance. Guests and staff alike have reported hearing her eerie sobs, the sound of her footsteps echoing in empty halls. Some claim to have even seen her ghostly figure standing at the top of the grand staircase, her eyes filled with sorrow and rage. But Isabel is not the only spirit that wanders these halls. The chateau is cursed by its violent history. Over the centuries, several other tragic events unfolded here. Murders, betrayals, and whispers of a bloodline doomed by its own sins. In the 19th century, the chateau was used as a location for darker, occult rituals. Some say the family dabbled in forbidden practices, and that they awoke something ancient and malevolent. In the bowels of the chateau lies a wine cellar, where even the bravest refuse to go. Legend has it that in this very place, the spirits of those murdered here, Isabel, and the many others who met their end within the castle's walls, are trapped. Their souls are said to be bound to the very stone, unable to escape. And some claim that, on rare occasions, the smell of blood and death still lingers in the air. So, what is the truth behind the haunting of Chateau de Brissac? Is it a curse, a restless spirit, or something darker, a force that continues to feed on the fear and death of centuries past?
These haunted locations continue to send shivers down the spines of those who dare to visit. Would you spend the night in any of these terrifying places? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a spooky adventure. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and watch out for things that go bump in the night.